All right, what's up, everybody? Dave Savage here. This is the Friday Mastermind, Trust Engine, Mortgage Coach, Win by Noon, Plug and Play SM, First Home IQ are some of the companies representing here. We've got an incredible mortgage professional that is a mortgage coach. He is a data-driven mortgage coach that does things right. Andy Zemon, will bring him on stage in just a minute. But Deborah Bird, it looks like you're going to be both Deborah Bird and Todd Bookspan today.
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Todd is with Shayla and the nerd at a John Sheplack mastermind in Nashville, Tennessee. So he is not with us today, but allow this to be your friendly reminder that we've got 1 week left of March in Q1. So hopefully everyone's killing their Q1 and getting ready for Q2. And what better way to start Q2 than to at least attend virtually or live to the Modern Mortgage Summit, which is less than a week away. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, make sure you go to modernmortgagesummit.com. I will be there live. Dave will be there live. So come hang. Do we have any seats left, Dave, for the live event?
Yeah, no, we do still have a few seats. It seems like kind of one ticket from what I heard from Todd are selling, but there's still some live seats available. It is a big spend, it's $1,000, but it's going to be a very intimate experience. There's only 65 leatherback recliner seats in Bradley's studio, and I'm sure they'll fill up. So I'm sure we'll have every, and it's going to, every speaker is going to be there. So one thing I want to say before I bring Andy on stage is, when I saw a lot of photos and things on social media from both Shayla, Todd, and Denise Donahue, the mortgage nerd. And obviously I had FOMO because I was just like, man, that looks like a fun event in Nashville. But it also just made me think and reminded me, especially in this post-NAR comp reform era, that mortgage professionals need to go to realtor events. I've always been shocked at how few mortgage professionals go to Inman's really big, large event. Housing Wire has some, real estate events. The Modern Mortgage Summit is both the Modern Mortgage Summit and the Modern Real Estate Summit. But I would just push everyone that's in this community. You need to mastermind with realtors directly more than ever. Make sure that as you plan out your spend for personal development, that you're not only going to mortgage events, you're going to real estate events. At least go to one mortgage event a year and go to at least one real estate event. And I just wanted to call that out. And I'm very inspired. I saw Keith Collins at that event, Shayla Gifford's at that event, our wingman Todd Bookspan. There were a lot of badass mortgage professionals learning from John Cheplock, who, by the way, he couldn't make it live to the Modern Real Estate Summit, but he did record a 15-minute keynote,
Oh, good.
which is
Sweet.
insane. Like, it's 15 minutes of gold. I mean, it's literally 15 minutes of gold, and that will be in the 365-day pass. So for everyone that gets the full 1-year event, you'll have John Cheplock, and we've got some other special things that will be in that 365-day pass. So Andy Zemon, what's up, my brother?
What's going on, Dave? It's good to be here. Deborah, it's
Good
always great to see you. It's
good to see you. Thank you for being our special guest representing the street of both mortgage and real estate during this chaos. How is that out there? Because you picked this title. What made you pick the title?
Well, I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now, right? I mean, the reality is there's no better way to put it than the last couple of years have been their own version of chaos, and the chaos just continues, right? Things just keep spinning. The world keeps spinning. I got to tell you, I'm really happy that I'm here today as opposed to being on a call after the mortgage summit that you guys are doing, right? There's some great speakers you guys got there. And then on top of it, I know you shared with me the super cool next guest that you have coming up. I'm sure you'll announce at some other point, but I'm glad I'm not following that guy. So, I mean, the reality is I appreciate you sandbagging, putting me here in a place where I got a chance to look all right. So I appreciate it.
Oh, bro, you every time I interview you, I get done. I'm like, man, that guy is so sharp. I love your energy. I love how much you love Disneyland, that your paintings in the background are just radical. Go Mickey Mouse.
They get a lot of attention, a lot of comments. There's no doubt about it. And it's fun, but as far as like what we're going through right now, it's, everybody's getting this. We're getting calls from everyone. This is what I love about the chaos. Everybody's looking for a rock. Okay. So it's like, it's a, right. Deborah, you mentioned this earlier, right? About the lighthouse metaphor, right?
Mhm.
We're all everybody out there is a ship in a storm right now. And it's a storm. They don't know whether they're going north or south or east or west. And everybody's looking for the lighthouse. Everybody's looking for the beacon of hope. And let's face it, this is what we do as an industry. We sell hope. We sell hope to home buyers that don't think they can do this. We sell hope to people that don't realize they could sell their house and buy a house, or they could buy a house before they sell their house. All we're doing is we're out there peddling hope. And if you're not peddling hope, you're doing it wrong, right? And so this is what I love about this environment is it creates the opportunity for us to do what we do best. And it's our chance to shine. So I love the chaos. I think the chaos, like, also, if you saw my closet, you would realize you're like, okay, you do love chaos, right? A little, but it's okay. We have to embrace who we are, right? And so for me, this is like my heyday. This is absolutely everything I love about a market, selfishly, because people need you and your confidence, me and my confidence, Deborah and her confidence more than ever. This is our chance to shine,
So is there anything that you're doing? Well, first of all, have you heard anything from like the general public from a consumer standpoint? Like, have you heard them ask about it? And then what would be your leadership advice of like, how do you take action? Like if this is chaos and we could be that lighthouse, like, are you immediately scheduling meetings with your buyer's agents? Are you doing a mastermind? Like what's your Andy approach? And guys, I just want to say from working with Andy, what I love most about him is he's like a no nonsense straight shooter. Like, you get what you see. So I love that, and be as raw and authentic as you want to be, Andy.
That's cool. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's so when the opportunity presents. So first of all, I believe this. I'm not going to push somebody into a feeling of chaos if they're not there already. I'm going to open the door and I'm going to let people walk in. Right? I'm not going to start and be the person that causes the freak out. But if I'm talking to somebody, client, and yes, I have had some client interaction on this as well as real estate interaction. And really what I'm doing is I'm asking them what they think. So this is a really important, I think it's a tactic. I don't really know. You all probably know this because you're a lot smarter than me. But I like to ask people their opinion. And I like to get their opinion, and I like to ask them why they think that. What information have you seen or have you heard? Where did you go to find that information? Most of the time, their answer to me is, well, my mom said that, or my dad said that, or I was talking to my brother about this, or I read an article on CNN, or I don't know, it's just kind of all over the news. And I'm like, okay, good. Then I ask permission to give them a counter opinion. The key there is permission. Do I have permission to share with you some information that I got that I think is a little more data driven, but it may help you maybe figure out that there's something in the middle, right? And so when I'm talking to clients about, and we'll talk about this issue, this elephant in the room, right? This NAR thing, this commission stuff, because this is the opportunity right now that we're facing, okay? And that conversation, it comes up with usually when a client asks me, or I will bring it up and I've said, hey, have you thought about what you'll do if you get to a point that the seller isn't paying your compensation? And I bring it up because here's the deal, guys. We're the best salespeople on the planet when we're not selling for our services. When we're selling for the realtor, we become the most valuable partner on the planet. So if I'm solving a problem that they don't know already exists, or they're kind of scared exists, I'm actually reinforcing my partnership with the agent, my expertise in handling problems, but I'm also taking care of my partner. So my conversation with the buyer the other day sounded like this. Well, have you thought about what you're going to do if the client doesn't, or if the seller doesn't agree to pay your the buyer's agent compensation? They said, well, no. And I said, well, you do realize that there's a new addendum that you're going to need to sign. And this is the buyer broker agreement. And it's going to say this. By the way, I'm not a realtor. I read some stuff too, but I think this is the way I understand it's going to work. My biggest fear for you, Deborah, is that we set a strategy in place that gets completely derailed because we go and we end up finding that the house you love has some jerk of a seller on the other side that isn't willing to take care of your agent for their hard work. So is it cool if we game plan a solution for that? And they're like, yeah. And so then what we do is we walk them through a couple of different strategies. And the strategy that I go to most often is, well, it's simple. If they're putting 10% down and we can drop their loan to 7% down and we can cover 3% out of the buyer's funds they were going to use, and we have mortgage insurance, and we all know based on the LLPA charts, the rate doesn't actually increase if you go from 10 to 7% in down payment. Mortgage insurance gets a little more expensive. But now if I use the magic of Dave's TCA, right, which we're all huge fans of, I can show them that their 3% commission, which is $12,000 on a house, might cost them $32 a month in mortgage insurance. But statistically, with 10% down, they're only going to have that PMI for, say, 4 years. Based on property appreciation rates, maybe even less. So you're actually getting your agent at a discount. Why? Because, you know, $40 a month times 4 years is a heck of a lot less than $12,000. So we can illustrate those things.
Yeah. And I think it's important that you demonstrate it, because when you say it, and in fact, I would love if you have any that you can pull up and show and just kind of show us how you demonstrate that to a client. But I agree. I think you have to have the demonstration to anchor in the concept, because it can sound kind of confusing. Like, we get it. And, you know, like, I'm hanging on with you. Is there any other data that you're presenting in that presentation that you feel like, you know, when you're asking that question of, you know, tell me more about that, or why you think that, or do you go straight to the TCA?
No. So we're talking about, in that case, interest rates, property value appreciation, are values going up, or values going down? You know, what I really like to do is so on the chaos side, where I say I don't like to bring it up, what I mean is if a client is nervous, and when they're all nervous, right? I like the question of, what are you most fearful of in this process? Okay. Because if I keep them in a logical environment, then they're going to make very logical, you know, decisions, right? Which could come down to, well, somebody else is $182 cheaper than you. Okay. Logically, I should do a loan that's $182 cheaper. Okay. But if I can get them, even the engineers, right, the Dilberts of the world, if I can get them over into an emotional space, then I can solve that emotional fear. And that's really what we got to be as an industry focused on, which is this is a question that I ask almost every single client is, what are you, now that you're in contract, or before you get into contract, whatever, what are you most fearful of in this process? And then they'll tell you. And why? Why does that scare you? What about that scares you? And then we address those concerns, because otherwise they're lingering in the back of your mind. And you really haven't gotten them to a place of trust and comfort until they feel like they're protected. And if you can't figure out what's really bugging them deep down, or what they're scared of, then you don't have any way to ultimately create that trust and protection. Also, midway through the process, you don't have any way to check in to make sure that you're actually achieving that result, because you now get to make a big commitment, a big promise to them. And that promise is, would you feel better if I promised you that that isn't going to happen, or that I'm going to do my best to make sure it doesn't, or that if we game plan a solution in case that occurs, would you feel better if we had a solution already in place in the event that happened? And the answer is yes. It's like, good, because I don't just want this to be a process where it comes out the other side with you having a mortgage, right, and a house that you bought. I actually, between now and the day of closing, I want you to sleep better at night. Right? Because my rule is, Deborah, if anybody's going to lose sleep during this process, it's going to be me, because I worry about you. Okay. And the day that stops happening is the day I got to retire from the business. So if I'm not sleeping well and I look tired, it's okay as long as you are. So I really need to understand, what are the issues, what's happening. And then we really bring it out. But we want to get to that emotional piece, because otherwise we can't solve it.
Dude, I got to be honest. I don't hear a lot of people asking those questions. I love it. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I think it's really clear. There's a theme that I'm seeing among the people that I think are gonna, at the mortgage level, win. And then some of the interviews I've done with real estate agents. By any chance, Andy, did you see the interview I did with Carrie Scholl the big
Yeah, I love
operator.
Carrie. She's up in the DC. Well, she was in the DC market, also Florida market. I love Carrie. I know her. Yeah, yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, and they all have something in common. Like they're not selling their product, they're selling the solutions they're bringing to the consumer. And they're asking great questions. I call it constructive tension. For forever, listing agents have had to step into constructive tension every time they take a listing. They have a very, well thought out, consistent listing presentation. They have to put constructive tension around negotiating their comp for the listing. It's going to be 5%, 5.5%, 6%, whatever. They have to win. They have to negotiate, and they got to get a signed agreement. And so now buyer's agents, we don't know exactly. There's a lot of things that are unsettled on this settlement, like the settlement that's out there. There's, like it's not time to play on, but here's what I thought, or here's what I think. We know for sure you're going to have to be a great advisor, ask great questions and then solve for consumers. So, what do you think some of the most valuable mortgage coach experiences are going to be to help a buyer's agent? Like I can see that a mortgage coach will become more and more part of the buyer presentation. And I have some ideas, and I've been talking to loan officers, but what do you think are going to be some of the most common mortgage coaches that you'll be doing to help buyer's agents win?
Well, I definitely think you're going to have how does my commission get paid? Again, right? Let's tackle the
So
elephant.
how to pay the buyer agent commission,
How to pay the buyer
mortgage
agent
coach?
commission and not have it affect the buyer, right? Or not have it affect the buyer
Okay.
catastrophically. Okay. I think I do believe that that's a big one for two reasons. I think we need to draw attention to what the elephant is in the room, right? Like one of my scripts is, let's talk about the first thing that you're going to want to know about, which I'm going to address with you, which is why interest rates suck as bad as they do. Why are they so high? Like, you're going to look at these things and you're not going to be happy. I'm not happy. I don't like them. You don't like them. They suck. Because the reality is it's also the opposite energy, right, Dave? So listen, I firmly believe that if I want to disarm a client and I know I'm about to deliver them bad news, if I'm more pissed off than they are about it, they have to be the opposite. It's the yin and the yang. You can't both be super high energy angry. You have to be, and you can't be both super high energy, really disappointed in terms. So if I'm more disappointed than they are, they have to be calmer. That's human psychology. And so if we can go in and we can address those things, then I think we win. But buyer's commission, number one. And then of course there's also the age old, like what we've been doing, the appraisal gap. Okay, great. We still have an inventory shortage, right? We look at appreciation. What does this home actually look like? The rent versus own right now. I mean, we're back to like, I'm sending rent versus owns to most of my people. I hadn't done, the rent versus owns in a solid couple of years. It was straight to the TCA. Well, now the rent versus own is really, really important because people are like, I don't know. Am I really better? Am I really better buying, or should I rent for another year? Because, I talked to my dad and interest rates are dropping. I heard the Fed's lowering rates 3 times this year. I'm going to wait. I'm like, cool. And this is where you get to ask the opinions. The whole point is people want to be led, but they want to make their own decisions. So the real point of what we do is to get people moving down a road that we know, and this is where you have to be an ethically persuasive. Okay. We know that we need to lead them down this road so that they can come to their own decision. No one wants to be dictated to. My money is the same color as everybody else's in the mortgage industry. So the reality is you have two choices. You're either promoting solutions or you're selling money. And I don't want to sell money because I don't want to buy money. That sounds terrible. So I'm going to promote solutions and I'm going to walk people down the road, and we're going to use that TCA. We're going to use the rent versus own analysis, but we're going to do it live, Dave. Here's the thing. I don't send out anywhere near as many stagnant TCAs now as I used to. You know what it is now? Now that we finally, look, now that we finally got our company up on the enterprise edition, and I got my smart fees integration, and I got my Optimal Blue integration, and I got all the integrations that matter, I can send you a link live while we're on the call through the CRM. I can say, pull it up. We're going to now build your first version of your loan program right now on the phone. And then after this call, when I take your goals, because now they feel involved, they don't feel dictated to. And so those are the pieces that we got to be better at. And we also got to remember, they are coming to us and their realtor is sending them to us. The financial advisor is sending them to us because they're sending them to us. They're not sending them to my company. They're not sending them to my team. They're sending them to us. So if we do it right and we spend a solid 30 minutes in the very beginning of every single call doing these things and setting the hook correctly and ethically, they're not going anywhere else, because when they call the call center, they get name, address, date of birth, social security number. And I already prepped them. That's somebody that's selling money, not solutions. And if that's what they want to buy money. There's plenty of people to sell it to them.
I love everything you said. I think it's definitely the path forward for both mortgage and real estate. And, you know, in real estate agents, you know, they can't just sell homes. You know, they need to sell tangible, valuable, obvious value. You know, write down the word, everyone, obvious value. You know, does the consumer see obvious value? And if you're a fee worksheet loan officer and, you know, here's your rate, here's your payment, and this is what you qualify for, that's a commodity. That's a loan. You know, that is not obvious value. But what you're going to see from Andy, and I do want to get, because we have so many mortgage coaches, we have over 100 people live on this. I think it's going to be some type of mortgage coach experience that, you know, shows how you're going to pay the buyer commission and not have it be, what was the word you said? It was, I don't know, a big problem. You had a,
Right.
the
elephant in the room. You talking about the elephant in the room?
Well, no, you said with a catastrophic problem, you know, like you can still buy it and pay. And then I do think the rent versus own is going to be more valuable than ever, because you know, if a buyer, the more difficult it is to make the decision to go from renting to owning, the more value you can bring and the more more tangible, like look at renting, look at versus owning, and show them like it's a couple $100,000 in net worth in 5 years. It's $500,000 or whatever it is in 10 years. The more you can future cast the value of the decision, the better. I think the should I buy now or wait TCA is going to be part of buyer presentations for agents. So those are three for sure. I do think as rates come down and the markets heat up, the appraisal gap's going to come back in a lot of markets. But here's what I want everybody to do right now. I want you to write down in your market, what do you think the mortgage coach experiences are that are going to create the most value for a realtor? Like, remember, you're helping realtors bring obvious value to buyers. And so what are the mortgage coaches that you're going to master and you're going to create and you're going to talk to your realtors about, so that they don't see you. They see you as part of the solution, not part of the problem. Deborah, we're almost at halftime, and I know we're going to get Andy to show one or two mortgage coach experiences that he thinks is going to help realtors win. But anything else you want to ask before we get to that? You're on mute, by the way.
I kind of have a selfish question, and I see that someone asked this as well in the chat, but I've been getting some emails on this as well, and I need y'all's help with how to respond. But I've had people ask, what do you do? How do you show the strategy when someone only has 3% or 3.5% to put down? Do you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. Clearly that one's obviously a lot harder, right?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, let's say the 3 or the 3.5%. I would tackle that by saying, similar to the client that comes in today, because remember, we're already doing this scenario for clients. It's just maybe these dollars aren't accounted for yet, because we're already saying, look, you've got $3,000 that you could spend buying a house. So we're going to need to use a program that doesn't have a down payment. Maybe we get you access to some grant money. Maybe we have to use a component of seller paid closing costs if we're going to go that direction. So this is where the partnership between me and your agent becomes critical. So what we do in that particular case is we show them what it looks like with an elevated purchase price, right? And the appraisal has to support it. And by the way, you're going to have a harder time right now getting that contract ratified, which means, Deborah, I need to make sure that because you're unrepresented today, I need to make sure that I introduce you to an agent that is less concerned with you guys buying a house and more concerned with helping you and your family find the right home. Which means if you think of that, it's the same result. You're going to buy a house, but we want somebody that's going to have the patience to stick with you, because this is going to, in all likelihood, take longer than you want it to. And so we have to be a team, and we have to protect you, and you have to know that we're not going to let you get into a contract that we can't settle on, which means I need somebody that's going to take what we know of your finances and truly champion your cause. And this is why you're paying that agent, is because the reality is you need them to be an expert in their negotiation. So we're probably going to need to count on the fact that the appraisal is a little high. And Deborah, in the meantime, here's what's going to happen. Right now, you pay $800 a month in rent. And by the way, I don't know how you got that and why you'd want to leave it. That's really good, Deborah. But you're going to pay $800 a month in rent, and your mortgage payment is going to $2,000 a month. So here's what I need you to do. On the first of every month, I need you to write yourself a check for $1,200. And you're going to fake it until you make it. Then number one, we're going to know your $2,000 works. Number two, if this thing takes you 6 months in order to find a house, you got about $7,200 set over in the account that if the appraisal does come in short, which I'll show you here in a second, you're going to be able to offset some of that actual gap on the appraisal, which is part of your agent's commission. So we're going to help you help yourself get through this, but we got to have the right team in place. Do you agree? And that's how we handle it. They got to know it's a problem. You've addressed it, but you can handle it. If you say, I don't know, they're going to come talk to me, and I'm going to tell them how we solve it. Right? Or somebody else. Point is, there are these people in your market. So you've got it, but that's how I would handle it. They're tight on funds. Okay, we got all the oldest, right? We got 401k loans, we got IRAs, there's grants that could be available. The industry is, our industries are going to continue putting out different scenarios, different options, different things we can do. But the idea is that's one.
So I think it's awesome. You're clearly, amazing. Your word scripting and word choice is super powerful. How are you, because you're kind of then, stuck at the agent's skill set to then execute, negotiate, and get the deal done. So are there things you're looking for in your buyer's agents, or things that you're training and teaching them to have the same level of confidence that when they're out there, they're not just trying to help the client buy a house, they're actually trying to find the right home? Are you doing anything on that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, we're teaching them how some of these things work and what the options are, but I am telling them what's needed, right? Exactly what is needed. And then I stress to them the importance and say, look, I don't expect for you to know everything in my business, but I'm still learning it, right? The truth is that when you don't think you can get exactly what I put on that paper, I need you to call me, and we're going to game plan how we're going to do it to not scare the client, but we're going to game plan on it. So you call me, don't make a blind offer. Okay. I'll walk you through this. We'll do it every single time. Why? Because every time I get on the telephone and I help the agent structure their contract for this buyer to meet the finance requirements, I become more and more available. I become more and more important and impactful to that agent. They rely on me more and more. And so that's one of the things I do is say, look, each scenario is going to be different. Let's just talk through it. Sometimes I'll say, well, we can't get exactly there, but I'll tell you what if I, one, I could raise the rate, two, I could switch the mortgage insurance, three, I could do this. And then I talk to the client. I'm like, look, this is going to cost you $80 a month, but we can work the numbers a little tighter if we do it this way. Are you comfortable with it? Yes, I just want the house. So I just need to be involved. I get terrified when I come in over a weekend and I have a contract in my inbox that I didn't know was going into contract. I'm like, oh God, what got screwed up? What are we going to have to fix now after the fact? So I'd rather be involved while they're doing it. It makes me part of the process.
I guess in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you scale that? How are you able to have all those conversations? And,
we have a mortgage coach that's built out in most cases, and I give the notes to my team. So one of the things we do post closing, and this is a cool little hack for everybody, but after every call, whether, I use AI. Okay. And so I use AI to take the conversation, write a detailed summary, give my team scenarios, next steps, next action items. Takes me 30 seconds to get my details to my team. And then the team has the entire list. They have access to the original TCA we did. They have access to my call, my video. And so they can see those
Oh,
things.
nice.
And so when the team's logging in and they're like, oh, yeah, Andy said in this particular case, you know, if the client needs seller paid closing costs, but if we need to include it in the contract price, we can do it, provided the client's okay shifting from monthly MI to single premium MI rolled back into loan amount or whatever, right? So
You're
to
doing
leave some of
these
those
via
nuggets.
Zoom, or are most of your conversations all Zoom?
Or telephone call, but yeah, Zoom or
Okay.
phone call. Yeah.
And is there
Hardly comes face to face.
an AI app that yeah, because I thought you were like on the beach most days, because don't you have 2 offices, or you're
I go to the
taking over?
beach all
Yeah.
the time. That's right.
Which AI note-taking app do you
So I
like to use?
Otter. I use
Okay.
Otter.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it works phenomenal. And by the way, the agents love it. They get a very detailed summary of exactly what's happening. And it saves me a solid 3.5 hours, I swear, a night, because I don't type my notes anymore. And if you actually saw me write anything, you'd be like, please God, don't let him write anything ever again. It's bad, right? My spell check loves me. I keep spell check in business, but it's Otter, OTT, OTT.
ER. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I told you I can't spell. So that's one of the tools that we use in order to keep the notes to people. But keep in mind as well, once I talk, the two most critical things that I do during the day, and this is where I don't want people to get confused about, I think, what our job is. Agents want us making their clients feel great so that they don't go to a different loan officer because they didn't feel great, and have that loan officer refer them to a different realtor. So they want to know. In fact, the joke that I use is, I ask agents this all the time, and feel free to use it. So the question is, Deborah, if you were the agent, I would say, Deborah, there's really 2 ways I can do this business, and I just want to make sure you're cool with it, and I do what you want. The first way is I can show up every week and I can bring you donuts and I can make you fat. The second way is I can be in the office, I can see you every once in a while, but I can be the first and last person that your clients talk to in the process, manage my team and do a great job on the deals, and I can make you rich. So do you want to be fat or do you want to be rich?
I mean, I like both.
I want to be rich.
I like my donuts.
I want to be rich, right? Well, if you're rich, you can make yourself. If you're rich, you can make yourself fat, right? You could do that. But this does 2 things. Number one, it reinforces the importance of what we do, and that I'm not always going to be there in their office with donuts. And it reinforces as well that the person showing up with donuts doesn't have anything to do.
All right. So I want to really net some things out in halftime. And I want to show a post real quick. Deborah shared this in chat. So I want everybody to click on this link right now. And she, is just, starting this conversation on social media, using social media for good. 5 mortgage strategies to protect buyers' agents' commission so buyers get the maximum representation. So first of all, go give this a like. There's a link down below. Go in here and put in, what are your top solutions? Like, let's show some love for Deborah. If you don't already follow Plug and Play, make sure you're following Plug and Play. It's really easy to do. So go to that page right now and do that. There we go. Give it. By the way, we're a little past halftime. Give us a little reaction as to how you're liking the conversation. Hopefully you're getting value. If you have questions, put it down below. I also use Otter AI, by the way. In fact, most of the time when I'm doing an interview like this, it's being recorded, but I have Otter AI going right now. And like, sometimes I don't hear what someone said, and I'm like, oh yeah, what did he say? And I'll go in and, reference what someone said. Later on today when I'm trying to create a headline for this, I use Otter AI. I also use Fathom for a lot of our meetings. I love it for Zoom meetings, and the quality of the notes are insane, but it doesn't have a mobile app. And it's not like I could be doing this call and just press record and have that information. So nice little add-on value. So Andy, show us a total cost analysis that you think is going to help buyers. By the way, Don Gottlieb just said, see you next week at the Modern Mortgage Summit. Looking forward to seeing you and Don, Gino. And also just a reminder to guys, like, this is the time to get out and meet and mastermind. If you have $1,000 and you can travel next week, come to the ultimate mastermind in the mortgage industry next week. But if you can't, like, meet up with some local frenemies, people that are your competitors, but they're your friends, and mastermind. And if you're not doing masterminds with real estate agents right now in this market, I mean, you are completely missing a massive opportunity to bring value and leadership. So get out there and mastermind. All right, what do we got here?
Yeah, so this is real simple. This is just a purchase with 10 or 7% down, showing a borrower, right, how these numbers actually function and work. We got a $350,000 purchase price. This is the seller in this particular place, paying the comp, right, to the buyer's agent. 7% interest rate, payments around $24.40 on a monthly basis. We got some estimates for taxes, insurance. I got some monthly mortgage insurance. It's a little cheaper, obviously, with 10% down. Need about 50 grand cash to close. Okay, great. Well, if we switch to buyer paid and we leave everything the same, well, what happens now is the mortgage insurance ultimately increases, right? So we got mortgage insurance cost that goes up just a little bit. Loan amount has gone up a little bit. So, and that's fine. That might work really well in a very short-term environment where we expect the loan to be 12, 18 months long. That's a good scenario. They're not upfronting the mortgage cost, which, again, if we refi pretty quickly, would be wasteful. And their cash to close drops, which is nice. But if they're payment conscious, right? So if they're cash to close and payment conscious, okay, and in this case, maybe they're a first-time home buyer, or maybe they're not. What I used in this case was a first-time home buyer. So what we did was, if one person was a first-time buyer, and chances are they are, right? Otherwise, they've probably got enough money on their own that they're going to ultimately cover the down payment, or excuse me, the cash to close. We just roll the PMI back up into the loan amount. And again, we have to ethically guide people through this, because if we believe and they believe that they're going to refinance this debt in the next 12 to 18 months, they're definitely leaving money on the table with this mortgage insurance premium rolled up into the loan amount. But if they're payment conscious, for basically $40 a month, we just solved their problem. And if they only are in this loan, let's just say hypothetically, we said, look, even if you're in this loan for, say, 3 years before you refinance, I mean, yeah, you've got dollars included, but the reality is it saves you 3% of your $350,000, right? So $350,000, right? So we're talking about $10,500 in cash savings at an expense of $44 a month. And they could very well be under the mortgage insurance tax deduction anyway, which the MI then becomes tax deductible, right? So all of those are little pieces, but now I've got two solutions. I've got short-term and I've got slightly long-term, but payment conscious. And for $40 a month, here's what I know. And this is what I tell people, right? As I'm thinking through it, is if $40 a month, if that's the difference between you feeling comfortable on a $350,000 house or not, then we have bigger problems. I got you in the wrong house price. Because that's one trip to Starbucks for the month. And so if that $40 is going to break the camel's back, then we need to retreat on this thing, because I'm concerned about your budget. Now we need to pull back and we need to reconsider the actual sales price of the house.
Deborah, thoughts on this, and anything come to mind? Because this is, I think it's obviously value. I think any realtor would want to work with a mortgage professional that could deliver this type of service and this type of value. Any ideas on how this could be used for marketing, or how would you use this in a realtor meeting, Deborah? And then Andy, I want to hear, like, how are you gonna, tell realtors about this service and value? But Deborah, why don't you go first, then let's hear what Andy has to say.
Well, that was actually going to be the first thing that I said to you, Andy, is to kind of put the squeeze on you to use this as a one-to-many strategy on social for two reasons. One, I call it TCA Tuesday. So in our battle plans every week, I include a TCA example. It's one way to just teach a financial lesson, but also to get people to share more of these online, because it does position you in the mind space of your consumers and of your partners, that you think differently and that you do create clarity in the chaos. And there's security in that feeling. But it's such a wow component of what you do, and it's a critical piece that we have to showcase these things to prove now that we are who we say we are and that we'll do what we say we'll do. And this is probably the hardest thing for a lot of people who are listening, because some are so focused on the aesthetics of their social and their marketing when no one cares anymore about that part. Like, they want value. And so we've got to prove that these are the things that we're doing, and it will teach people. And sometimes they need consistent messaging. Like, I'm going to have to rewind this and listen to how you were just talking about the tax strategy, and just to make sure that it, sinks in. But your consumers and your agent partners are the same way. They need consistent messaging. That's why I say do it at least once a week, every Tuesday, where you're sharing it in the stories, you're doing it as a reel, you're sending a mass email, you're inviting them to your monthly mastermind where you maybe have to print it out so they can interact with it. Because how else do you measure the learning or the mastery that they understand it and that they're able to then articulate why they use you as their lender partner, or why they should, for that matter. So this is just another, great example of how you can easily get people that can take a complex topic and make it easy to understand, while also emotionally connecting and addressing their bigger concerns of, is it monthly payment? Is it cash to close? What is it? And let's just scratch that itch and address it. So
Yeah.
I love it. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The one, actually, I'm adding one more to it real quick that I'll show you guys, which is, what if, just because I'm curious what it looks like, right? What if,
Why don't you share your screen while okay, good. I was like, why don't you show us the secret sauce?
Yeah. So what if they just increase the price? So what if we roll that price up and we leave the scenario the same? Look at this. Look how unappealing that is. And you got the risk of the appraisal not supporting it. So it costs them more at the closing table. It costs them more on a monthly basis. And they have the appraisal risk, which is likely going to get their contract denied. And this is this is why I like doing these things with borrowers live and on the fly. So a lot of people, you mentioned this, Deborah, they're perfectionists about their social media. I'm still getting over my concerns with it, but whatever. But on the mortgage side, people want authenticity. They want your solutions, but you can put this in brackets and you can say, look, we're clearly building this live. Once we're finished building this right now, I'm going to go back tonight and I'm really going to dive into this to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But I really think it's important for you to see how this all plays out, not here. I want you to see it. I want you to be involved in this, and I want you to ask questions, because a client very well could have asked me and said, well, why don't we just increase the price and have the seller, why don't we finance it? Or I would make the suggestion, well, I might need to see what those numbers look like. And at the end of the day, it's clearly more expensive and it creates a bigger risk. So I like doing them live, Dave. I like changing these things. I think that's one of the coolest features of the Trust Engine Mortgage Coach, is the ability to do these things in real time, because no one else is doing. And it still blows my mind. I've used Mortgage Coach now since it was the desktop driven program, and it was like you had to click your button, accumulate, right? All your data populates. But it still blows my mind that everybody in the mortgage industry is not using that. Is not using it. I just don't understand it, right? I just don't get it. I mean, it works out well from a competition standpoint, but the reality is I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me,
Will you put this TCA link in the chat for us?
Yeah. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, put it in the chat, and then real quick, stop sharing, or I can take the screen real quick. Someone asked a question about this being recorded, and two things I want to show you guys. Actually, let me show you this one. I just updated this. So this is the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. So whoever asked that, if you subscribe to this channel, Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, you'll get alerted when we add new videos. And I do want everyone to notice that, one, there's a NAR settlement playlist. So every time I'm doing an interview that is how to have a competitive advantage, how to win, you're not going to get the news from me, like follow Housing Wire, get that from other people, because I think there's a lot of people just kind of giving the news. But if you want to know how top realtors and top mortgage professionals are turning this settlement into an advantage, then follow this playlist. Like, I'm going to be interviewing people. Shop Benosian, the #1 loan officer in America, will be added to this playlist on Monday. He'll be in this group. I can't remember what time. I'll put someone on our team will put the actual time of that. It'll go into the Facebook group, and then we'll put it in YouTube by the end of the day. Andy will be added to this because this is a conversation around how to win in this, our settlement era. I do want to call out, whatever I think, it's my subjective opinion, that I think are the best interviews of the year. I add to the best of 2024. And then you'll just notice, like, we've got all kinds of playlists. What do I think the all-time best interviews? Right there. And by the way, this Jason Mitchell interview, like, look at that. I mean, we haven't sent an email out. We haven't promoted this. This is pure organic. In 2 days, it's got 12,000 views. Now, if you have not watched, watch Jason. It was amazing. I do think this one you have to watch it because it's a realtor telling you how to win, how realtors need to win. Watch this interview. Sean it's very similar to this, conversation we're having with Andy, where he's showing how he's going to win. You just have two different people with two different kind of perspectives and vibes. So check that out. And then
pipelines too, Dave. Pipelines too. My pipeline doesn't look like his, so I'd listen to him.
Whatever. He does have quite the pipe. Reminder, next Tuesday, there's no reason not to have the virtual ticket. It's $100. Sign up, and hopefully a few more people will sign up. And then this is totally free. A couple times a week, I will text what I think is the best, most valuable content of the week. So usually it's not more than 3 texts. This week it might be a little more than 3 texts because it's such a crazy week in mortgage and real estate. But usually it's 2 to 3 times I will text you this is the gold. Like, this is, if you want to be a data-driven mortgage coach and you want to gain market share and you're a branch manager and you want to help your branch do it. If you're a regional, you want to help your regional do it. You be in that text group. I also put that phone number in chat. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the number and the links will all be down below. So, by the way, guys, the Shop Benosian interview is 12:30 Pacific. We're not gonna, I'm gonna just push it live into the Facebook group around that time. I'll probably sync up with Shop for 10 minutes, and then probably around 12:40 Pacific, we'll go live. And then, like I said, that will be in the YouTube channel tomorrow. If there are questions you have for Sean, I'll start a thread in our Facebook group right after this. I'm interviewing Sean next week. What questions do you have for Shop Benosian? So I'll put that in chat if anyone wants to collaborate on that. So we got 10 minutes left. First of all, Andy, is there anything you came to this prepared and you're like, I want to make sure I share this before we run out of time? Is there anything else on your checklist?
Well, Deborah asked me a question earlier, and I don't think I quite fully answered it, which is I believe that the number one thing that we can do in presenting this information to our agents and our business partners, we got to keep in mind, we have to be their best closer. That's really as far as if I'm a realtor and I'm working with a mortgage provider, I want to make sure that first and foremost, they're making sure that client never leaves me before they're worried about name, address, date of birth, and social security number. Okay, because I'm trusting you at that point. If I'm a realtor, I'm trusting you with this lead that I either spent money on or I developed, et cetera, and I'm sending it over. I want you to finish closing the deal for me, because we as an industry, we as their referral partners, we can say things about them and reinforce them that they can't say about themselves. And it's the only way, Deborah, because you asked this earlier, you said, what about the agents that are sort of weak in their, in their skills? Like, what do they do? Like, okay, it's not just about the contract, but it's the only way that we can get to them the information we need them to say about us, is if we're first willing to do that for them. So that the scenario is, you have no idea how lucky you are to have found Deborah. She probably didn't tell you, but and then I go through 2 or 3 things that are really just very high level hooks as to why that client's so fortunate to find them. And what I then ask for in return is, after I do that once or twice, and by the way, I link that realtor back up on a video afterwards, reinforcing it again, because now we've closed a little circle of love or trust or whatever, protection around these people. The agents ultimately say, oh my gosh, that was the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. Now they want it said again and again and again. So they keep sending me clients. And now the next time I sit down with them, I get to ask them, by the way, what do you tell people when you refer me? And they're like, oh, I just tell them to call you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, you've seen the 2 or 3 things I say about you every time and what it does. Would you mind if I share 1 or 2 things I'd love for you to say about me? Or I can give it to you in an email and you can use that as an introduction. Then I get to plant exactly what I want said when they refer me and they know I'm already doing it. So now they're willing to do it as well. Now the client is less likely to shop and move on from me as well.
I love it. You've modeled the example. It's great.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do it, it's fine. There's other agents that will. So I guess I'll talk to them.
All right, guys. So we are 8 minutes left. If you have a question for myself, for Deborah, for Andy, a topic you just want to throw out in the group, get it out pronto, or there's 0 chance that we're going to have time to talk about it. Deborah.
I have one question for Andy.
Well, I was gonna give it to you. So go.
Okay. Have you thought about what this looks like if, say, someone in your sphere comes to you and, maybe they're a first-time home buyer and they don't want to pay, they've heard the media attention and they're like, I just don't want to use a buyer's agent. Do you have kind of scripting or thoughts around that?
Well, yeah. So I have thought about that actually quite a bit. And I can tell you fundamentally, I don't want to do it, right? Mostly because I know the other side is represented. Don't get me wrong. My favorite transactions are mom selling a house to son, right? I love the family deals where I got nobody else in the middle except me. I can orchestrate all the pieces. I love that. But I don't like the idea of then doing the buyer's agent's work, obviously, and not doing the work, right? Because I'm not an agent. I don't have any intent to become licensed. That's not what I'm interested in. Plenty of people are going to have a business plan that'll do something different. But I do think the importance of having the conversation, and what I will likely do is say, that's not my preferred method of moving forward, and here's why. And I can understand why you would want to and why you would want to save the expense, because money is money. But would you, where did you get the information from? Where did you get this idea? Blah, blah, blah. Would you mind if I share with you a few data points that I think are going to reinforce the importance of an agent? And then I talk with you through other options that might not require you to actually pay out of your own pocket. And right, because, and then I'd also phrase it this way, which is, and this is where I think the real estate industry went way, way wrong back, whoever knows how many years ago, is, Deborah, what if I told you that you were already paying for the real estate agent, specifically even the seller's agent, when you buy this house? Would you be more inclined to hire your own agent if you knew that you were paying for the seller's agent as well now anyway? And the answer, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what's included in the purchase price of your house, Deborah? Who's paying that price? See, this is where I think the real estate industry shot themselves in the foot. In order to get dual representation, again, nothing more than an opinion, right? Just a theory. But back in the day, they decided there should be 2 agents working on these transactions, because wouldn't it be better if both agents got some, representation and both agents got commission instead of one getting all the commission? So let's do this. Let's say that the buyer's agents work for free because they're paid by the seller. And then the buyer says, okay, that's awesome. You're working for free. The seller pays you. But what's included in the price of the house? It's your commission. It's the buyer's agent commission. It says the buyer has forever and a day always paid 100% of the commission when you figure the fact that it's loaded in the price of the house. So now you're paying for a seller's agent, but you're choosing to not pay for your own representation. So you're paying to have somebody negotiate against you, which sounds crazy to me. So if I were you, I would at least go the route of interviewing a couple of agents. Let's figure out if we can get the right fit, the right fee structure, the right everything, so that you're not unrepresented in a case where you're paying for somebody to fight against you.
Because don't you think if you're the listing agent on the other side and you're looking at multiple offers, since we're still in a tight inventory market, and you're paid to represent the seller, and if I have someone who's representing themselves as a buyer, I'm not going to want to accept that deal. That's going to be a nightmare and a headache where they don't understand just option period and escrow and title company and
Correct.
just, like the turn times and the legalities around. So I would think that also hurts
Yeah.
your chances of ever winning
Yeah,
a deal.
it's not just
Okay.
about saving the money. It's that, and it's the fact that I think when you drive the nail in with the fact that they're already paying to have somebody represent the person that they're negotiating with, why wouldn't you then go ahead and spring a couple of bucks for yourself, or allow us to create some strategies so it doesn't have to impact your terms, but you can have the representation that you need? And my answer would be, Deborah, would you do me a favor, trust me on this one, and at least interview somebody that I think epitomizes what a buyer's agent should be? Now, all I need you to do is interview them. I'm not telling you what you got to do. I'll help you either way. But part of what I do is risk mitigation, and I don't feel like I'm doing my job properly if I don't have you interview what I think is the epitome of a realtor.
That's great.
All right, let's see. We are in the closing 3 minutes. So in the closing 3 minutes, and I don't see any notes coming in, but I want to just kind of address a mentality, a mindset. And, I do think, and I don't know there's anything we can say in the last 3 minutes. It's going to be like, okay, I'm going to get my mindset fixed. Other than I will tell you, read The Gap in the Game. Even if you've read it before, read it again. And I want to push everyone in mortgage to go, am I in the gap or am I in the game? And ask yourself that all day, every day. Am I in the gap? Am I in the game? I also want to push everybody in mortgage that whether you've read it or you need to reread it, the 4 agreements. I mean, it's even a great book to be giving out to realtors right now. Like there are the 4 agreements are: don't make any assumptions, don't take anything personal, be impeccable with your word, and do your best. And really, with those 2 books, you could really arm yourself with quite the mindset that would distinguish you in the market. So, Andy, anything you want to add to that from a mindset perspective? Are there any other books you want to recommend? Is there anything that you want to tell people to get I want to call it the innovator's mindset, which will, by the way, the innovator's mindset will be the winning mindset.
Yeah.
When we look back at this race where we just started, the race started last Friday through 2025, there is going to be a tremendous amount of changing, musical chairs played in mortgage and real estate. And if you want to win, what's the winning mindset? Closing thoughts, Andy.
Yeah. So first, a book. I think everybody, that's a great idea. I think everybody though should have a book that they can reference to their clients that is the metaphor for their business. So mine's Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, the two retired Navy SEALs. I pronounced his name wrong, but anyway.
No, you did it. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin.
But that would be a book. So when I talk to my clients, I tell them, look, the one thing that you get when you hire us and you hire me is you get extreme ownership. And I don't know if you know that book, but I didn't know how to really articulate it until I read this book. And this is what it is. And most of the time they go out and they'll Google the book and they'll look at it, and I tell them what it is, and it gives them an idea of how I run my business and why. And if it's the 4, would you say commitments? I didn't read the book yet, but
Agreements.
The 4 agreements.
4 agreements.
Yeah. Great book.
Somebody's going to Google it. They're going to look at it, right? And it gives them an idea of what to expect. The thing I want to make sure everybody's aware, because you said, hey, mindset. Here's the thing. Driven, not driven, like, are you motivated? Are you getting up every day? There's nothing on this planet that is going to give you drive unless you make the decision that you're willing to have the drive. You can't just read a book and all of a sudden be motivated for your career. It doesn't work that way. Internally, you have to decide that you're willing to innovate. You're willing to sweat. You're willing to bleed. You're willing to get yelled at. You're willing to not be liked in some senses. You're willing to do the hard work to get the result that you want, whatever that might be. And so a lot of times, and I know this because this is me, I'll go and I'm like, okay, I need a little extra juice or whatever. It's not the book, it's the choice. So just make the choice. But this industry, the gap is going to grow. So the difference between the Jeremy Forciers that are doing all of the business, right? And then other people that are not, that gap is going to get wider, and it's going to be harder to catch up. And it'll get to a point where it's impossible to catch up. Don't let that be you. Stay as close as you can. You don't have to win the race, but allow the Jeremys and the other, you know, the Shaylas and the Debras and the Daves of the world to be the wind barrier. Run behind them, pick up a drag, like just use that slipstream to help you get where you're going. But you have to make the choice to do it. It's your choice.
All right, D Bird, a minute win by noon close. You know, put on your Todd Bookspan hat and wrap it up.
Okay, so first thing is, you know, get your virtual ticket to the Modern Mortgage Summit if you haven't already done that. 2, I want you to go back and re-watch this and write down the question trees that Andy listed, because those questions are strategically curious questions that allow you to cover more ground and emotionally connect with your client and your partner. And then be the MVP, which means be the most valuable player to your agent partners right now. How are you selling them? How are you breaking down complex issues right now and making it easy visually for people to make confident and empowered decision when they're in the heat of battle? Like, they need to be equipped when they're out there in the field to be able to make those fast decisions. And so I just would encourage you to go back, listen to this, maybe use the Otter link that Andy put in the chat. And then my mindset thing that I'll leave you guys with is I put your influence, which could also be your personal brand, will never grow wider than your character runs deep. So these hard moments in these times, they build character, which is a good thing. So if you want a stronger personal brand, it is built upon your character. So do the work, you know, do the personal development work, go to your agent mastermind, surround yourself by people that think bigger than you do. And, you know, like Andy said, kind of get behind them, let them be the wind bearer for you if needed. So, you know, and win by noon.
And you know, I put a post in LinkedIn every morning. This month I made the commitment every Monday morning to do a video and a LinkedIn post, which I've also put in our Facebook group, that is sales leadership for producing branch managers. And you know, there were 3 things that I called out. I said, number 1, this is a time for empathetic leadership. So I just want to remind people, this is not a time to preach, and this is a time for curiosity, a humility, and to meet people where they're at. Number 2, you know, I pulled from Extreme Ownership, because that is my all-time favorite leadership book. Default aggressive. This is time to be default aggressive. Be contacting every real estate agent. Be contacting your database. Be masterminding. And then number 3 was be a coach. You know, like the coaches are going to win. You know, make sure, if you haven't already, you know, you've signed up for this. Remember, the virtual tickets are, you know, easy to sign up for. A number of companies have bought a pass for their entire, you know, loan officers. But if you cannot, you know, afford it, and, you know, or you go to the event, you should still be doing your own local mastermind. So I know we went 4 minutes over. Andy, I appreciate you, my brother. You always bring tremendous value to every conversation I'm in with you. Deborah Bird, always grateful for you. For this amazing community, grateful for you. I've never had more fun. I've never been more fired up, because whenever there's change, there's opportunity. And I want to help this community navigate the opportunity and find the path to opportunity. Give us, for those of you that stayed on the whole time, give us a little closing reaction. Let us know what you thought of today's call. And, you know, be active in our Facebook group, be active in our YouTube channel, and have an awesome weekend, everybody. If you have a favorite basketball team in March Madness, good luck to you. If Kentucky,
sorry, Kentucky people. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Kentucky was your favorite team, condolences. Ouch. Sincerely, condolences. I mean, really, like that's
yeah.
But to the team that beat them, you know, congratulations. What a thrill. Guys, let's get out there and win in the marketplace. Take care.
Thank you, Andy. You're awesome.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.